Good morning, Westside. It's Miss Graves. I'm summarizing pages 256 to 279. The chapters are short again to keep the pace going, and the author is doing a great job with the pacing of this story to build the excitement and to lead you up to the climactic moments. We have several different storylines that have to get wrapped up. We have the Admiral and his storyline that has to get wrapped up. We have Lev and what's going on with him. That has to get wrapped up. We've got Rissa and Connor. Then we have that Roland and Connor battle. Lots of little storylines that the author has to wrap up in these last chapters. So let's get to it. In chapter 48, they're at the hospital because they had to take the Admiral in. He was had a heart attack and was dying, and the juvie cops are there. And the juvie cops are there because of Roland turning them in. So that's what we learn in that chapter. Chapter 49, we learn that Roland is jealous of all the attention that Connor was getting because of his leadership. Like when they went back to the compound and he saw the chaos there, he kept saying, I would have done a better job leading the chaos. And everybody was just asking about Connor. He was jealous of that. We see a conversation between Roland and the cop asks, hey, I'm curious, you're turning in your friends, but that also means you're turning in you. And Roland reminds him of the reward of $500 per unwound. And the cop says, yeah, but that's only $1,500. And then Roland says, what if I told you that I knew where there were a secret stash of unwounds, more than 400 of them? And so, yes, he's going to turn in all the unwinds. Chapter 50. The cops are questioning Rissa and Connor and Roland, and the cops question Connor about, hey, we hear there's 400 kids at this compound, and Rissa and Connor saying, Roland's lying, he's just trying to get out of this. And the cops say, no, we know this is true, we've been watching the Admiral, and we just haven't brought him in because the Admiral takes care of the rats of society. But if the Admiral dies, then there's no one to take care of that. We might as well just turn in all those kids. Roland learns during questioning from the police that Connor is actually the Akron AWOL, this bad unwound who, did all these awful things and was so powerful. He tries to bargain, but Roland's plan does not work, and they are all taken into a harvest camp. So chapter 51 is a description of the harvest camp. It kind of slows the pace down a little bit because you've been thinking about what's camp like at a harvest center. And so we're going to see what life is like there. Chapter 52 is from Rissa's perspective. They separate the three of them when they are taken into the harvest camp, and we learn that they give them intelligence tests and physical ability tests. And when you think about it, this makes sense because they're going to sell their body parts after they're unwound, and so they have to know the quality of their brain and their body parts to know how much money they can ask for their parts. And at the end of this chapter, they learn that she knows classical piano, and this is actually where her abilities with playing the piano pay off. They need someone who can play classical piano, and it's kind of disturbing how they use people with musical ability. Chapter 53 is from Connor's perspective. He's spending time downplaying the rumor of the Akron AWOL, and people in the harvest camp are telling him, hey, be careful because guys like you get unwound quick. And so that's when you start to learn that they aren't unwound as soon as they're brought into camp. Some of them live 6 months or more, you find out, when they're a part of a band. And some are unwound very quickly. Let's see. They're in the middle of a volleyball game because they spend a lot of time exercising, and they get their first glimpse at a group of tithes all in white that are walking down a red carpet towards the Unwind Center to be unwound. And there's lots of gossip about what it must be to be a tithe, and a lot of people really don't like the tithes. They say, oh, they think they're better than us, which is weird because it's like, you're all dying, you're all going to be unwound, why be petty about it? And so that leads us to wonder about what's happening with Lev. Okay, that's how the author sort of segues from Rissa and Connor to the tithes. Chapter 54 is from Lev's perspective, and you realize he's actually at the harvest center where Kana and Rissa are, because Connor's looking at this line of tithes and he sees Lev. And he finds out that Lev has an appointment in 13 days to get unwound. So I'm sure they're going to try and have conversations with Lev. What's Lev been doing? How did he end up there? That kind of thing. Chapter 55 is from Rissa's point of view, and you find out that she is on the roof of the Harvest Center, and they put all the people who play in the band up there, and they play music as sort of a ceremony for the people who are being unwound to walk the red carpet to go in and be unwound. And that's the last experience they have on earth, is hearing the music they play and seeing them play. So Rissa's on top of the roof, and every day she plays, she's watching to make sure that she doesn't see Connor, because she's not going to handle that really well. They've been separated here at this camp. And then it's a little ironic. They play a classic rock song, Fear the Reaper. You know, the Reaper, like the death, the guy that leads you to death, and it's a classic song. So if you want to Google that and see what that sounds like, that's going to be the last thing that a lot of those people hear. On page 276, chapter 56, it's Connor's perspective, and this chapter kind of slows some things down, and there's some drama here. He goes back to his dormitory where he sleeps, and there's some kids missing, and this really haunts him because he knows what happened to these kids. He's kind of spacing out, thinking about things, and he looks up and realizes everybody's left, but he sees Roland. And Roland isn't in his unit, and so he... Sorry, I spaced out for a second. So he sees Roland there, and he reminds him, hey, if you're found out of your unit, you're going to get some marks against you. And that's not a good thing, because the more problems you have at the center, probably the quicker you're going to be unwound. Let's see. Roland starts talking to him, saying he's throwing things in his face like, you always called me a killer, and I've never once killed. I never kidnapped anybody. I never... shot a juvie cop with a tranquilizer or a stun gun. He's mentioning all the things that Connor has done. And he says, if I'm such a killer, I'm running out of time to make you right. And so we're like, whoa. This chapter, at the end of chapter 56, this is the fight that they never had, that they always wanted to have. Okay? And so... just to summarize it really quickly, Roland has the upper hand, and he starts to choke Connor, and Connor's losing consciousness. And so we see the thoughts running through Connor's mind, like, is it better to be unwound, or is it better to just die quickly from the hands of this person? At the bottom of page 278, he'd rather be killed with a furious hand than dismembered with cool indifference. Then at the bottom of the chapter, you find out that Connor is released, and he drops and he hits his head, and it sort of shakes him back awake. And Roland says, consider yourself lucky. And then he leaves without another word. Connor can't tell whether Roland is disappointed or relieved that he's not the killer he thought he was. But Connor suspects it's a little bit of both. So Roland, for some reason, does not end up killing Connor, and that's where we leave the chapter off with. It's getting really exciting. We're at the end. When you take a look at how much is left in the book, okay? You know the author has to wrap everything up, and things are going to be exciting. Look how much we've read. Think about where we've led to, and I told you that the author is going to write about an unwinding and how it happens and the process of it. And that's going to be really exciting. So have a great day. I'll see you later.